Alright, so welcome to Rural University.
Had to step my game up. When you bring my name up, they gon' say I came up. They gon' say I changed up. Step my game up. When you bring my name up, they gon' say I came up. They gon' say I changed up. Step my game up. When you bring my name up, they gon' say I came up. They gon' say I
This
changed
podcast
up.
is all about mental health, financial literacy, relationships, and anything under the sun that falls under those categories. We live. Oh, we live right here, see? This is why you gotta... Alright, so now we live everywhere.
Oh.
Welcome. So, this is, episode 13 of Rural University. I appreciate everybody out there showing me love. And we got some more episodes lined up back to back for y'all. I know I normally kind of space them out, but we got them back to back. But today, we have a very special guest through a very special person. And, I'm excited to bring this person on. One, because for y'all who don't know, I had the opportunity to go to an amazing, beautiful country and experience their culture, and just, I fell in love. It was love at first sight, right? And so, in particular, I'm talking about Colombia. So, in this episode of Rural University, one, I'm going to let her introduce herself, but in this episode of Rural University, we're going to go from me recording in Colombia to now being back here doing an episode with the Colombian times two. So introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here and talk about my amazing country. I'm privileged to be born and raised in Medellin, in Colombia. So, yes. Well, I actually was born in Cartagena, but I grew up in Medellin. So,
Okay.
I feel that I represent my culture 100%.
Okay. Paisa culture, okay.
Yes.
So for those of us who don't know, what is a paisa?
Oh my gosh. So this is going to be tough to kind of just represent it in just one phrase, but I will say that we are born and raised in Medellin. We have this hustle Latin culture.
Yeah.
We are family oriented. We're hard workers. We are eager to grow, to go get it. Like we have really big ambitions in terms of self growth, in terms of creating businesses. We are happy people.
Yeah.
We are local supporters. So we are definitely that. It's kind of different, the hustle culture that we have compared to the American hustle.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
Yeah, but I would say that we really value community, happiness. We value our own city. It's something that we are proud of.
Yeah.
And we value our customs, our food. And I have to say that at some point we are really way too proud of us. We really think that we have a good way of living, and I would say that we'd like to share that.
Okay. Well, I think so. It's a couple of things you said, right? One, being proud. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, you got to be proud, right, of who you are and where you come from. But two, I would say, in terms of at least what I felt coming to Medellin. One, as soon as I landed, I'm seeing the mountains, leaving not Jose Cuervo, Jose something airport, right? But I land, man, I'm looking at the dam, looking out the window like a little kid at the beautiful mountains, all of the houses poking out. And then two, I could just kind of feel that sense of community, right? And just warmth and even though I didn't speak a lick of damn Spanish, other than hola, de donde eres, very basic, people kind of showed me love, right? And so I think there's a difference between kind of what you said in terms of Paisas expressing that community love versus like America's expressing that community love. Like we don't really necessarily have it on like a day-to-day basis as much versus at least my experience of Michigan.
For us, it's a must-to-have thing.
Yeah.
We like to know who is our neighbor. We like to say, hey, good morning to everybody.
Yeah.
We like to support our local business. So definitely there's that day-to-day interaction with everybody in the community. And there are always like a space to be welcoming with whoever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be somebody from the Paisa culture.
Yeah.
We're going to be like, hey, this is how we do things here. This is
Yeah.
where you go. We have a lot of tourism going on, so we're used to like this is the direction, and we are the type of people that if we don't have to go somewhere, we will take you.
Yes.
Like we will get out of our way to try to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And try to help you to get what you need to be.
Yeah.
We are selfless, I would say, in many aspects.
Yeah.
And one of the best things that I remember the first time that I arrived to Medellin, I was really young. I was a kid. And I remember like looking at the mountains and the houses and the lights at night. And it felt like so cozy, like homing.
Yeah,
like it was just like that feeling like Christmas. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's silly, but
Yeah, no.
but you get it.
No, I definitely get it.
And there's a lot of nature, so you never feel like, I would say that New York, I have lived close to New York, so there's that hustle mentality, but it's, you know, like a building jungle, right? But we have like a really good in-between.
Yeah, balance, yeah.
Yes, in having nature, but also having like really cool buildings and things to do. There's always things to do. The people are always willing to, you know, like, yeah, I can work 8 hours, 10 hours, but I'm going to go and take like a beer with you.
Right.
And we can talk about life or whatever.
And spend that time, yeah. Well, so I think like, you know, even being in an environment like that, you know, we kind of talked about this before. How does that impact your mental health on a day-to-day basis, right? So to your point, if you have a job where you have to work 8 hours, 10 hours, but on your walk to and from work, you have vegetation and trees and flowers and people actually asking you, hey, how's your day? Instead of just giving you a head nod or nothing at all. Like, from your perspective, how would that impact you?
So there are a couple of things that I would like to mention before we go straight to that answer. First of all is that we feel that Paisas we live in a city that is like paradise.
Yeah.
We have great weather.
Yes.
All year round.
Yes.
It's the perfect spring.
Come on now.
Right? We always have food vendors outside.
Come on now. Talk to me.
Giving you like, I don't know, like any type of snacks that you can think of, like fruit, vegetables, like exotic fruit, like juice. It's so good.
Yeah.
There is local businesses with homemade food all the time.
Yeah.
The service is amazing.
And buñuelos.
Oh my gosh,
Buñuelos
yes.
con queso. Look, we got people in the audience laughing. Okay.
Well, we also have empanadas.
Yes.
Palitos de queso.
Come on.
Oh my gosh, like food is
Arroz
amazing.
paisa.
Yes. So we feel really privileged to be and live there.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So, I mean, there's no best place to be. And that's the mentality that we also have.
Right.
And keep working to keep building that community and those spaces in our community to the point that we can be happy every day, even if we have to go work. Not everybody loves what they do.
Right.
Our economy is not in the best spot compared to other cities and countries. However, we are happy people and we're always down to make whatever is going on a good time.
Yeah.
So going that in terms of how my mental health changed, there are a couple of things. So I used to have a 9 to 5 in Colombia. It was a really long commute, but I mean, I always had like these beautiful mountains to see on the way.
How'd you get there? Were you metro? Would you?
Oh, okay. So there was a different ways to do it. I was really privileged. I was living in the south, the traffic from the south.
Okay.
No, from the south to no, not at all.
See.
No. For a long time, I actually live in the north side
Okay.
as well. But you just get used to it. It's not.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, it's a transition because traffic's gonna be completely different, and the
Right.
metro is gonna be completely packed, right?
Yeah.
But I was privileged to going that I didn't have to have that. And I could see like the city. In the company that I was working at that time, they had like transportation, private transportation for us.
Damn.
Yes, and they will
Okay.
give us like food.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it was like beans and rice and like pork, like
Okay.
every day for lunch. Like you could get whatever you want.
Wow.
And
All
it
right.
was homemade, so it was really good. In sense of community, I remember we will have lunches every day. All the workers, like all my
Together.
coworkers, like even the president, like
Notice.
every like CD,
Yeah.
CEO, everyone on the table,
Yeah.
like having the food. We
Yeah.
won't talk about work first of all.
Right.
And we will always joke about things. We were always down to go get coffee. Like I don't know, like at 3 p.m. We are coffee lovers.
Look, I had to
That's
learn that. I had to
coffee is
learn that.
life for us. So
Yeah.
we will go like to get some cafecito around
Yeah.
like 3 p.m. and then finish work and then do that again.
Yeah.
But Thursday, Friday, and usually Wednesday as well. They're like this jueves social, like viernes social, like social time. That
Okay.
you, as soon as you get off of work, you gotta meet up in one
Yeah.
of the bars and just have a beer and talk about life. Like
Right.
there's many places where you can have that third space that I talked to you before. That helps your mental health because it's a place where you talk with friends, with people that you don't know,
Yeah.
that you are not obligated to do something productive like work.
Right.
You
right,
can just be listening to music.
Relax.
Exactly.
Right.
Be like hanging
Right,
out.
yeah.
Like the purpose of having a good balance between, life can be tough. You gotta work, you gotta do your best, but at the same time, you have that community, and your coworkers are actually people that you like to be with.
Okay.
And people that are interested in whatever is happening to you. Like we will always make this called like vaca, like it means that everybody put like a little bit of money so we
Okay.
can treat you up or cheer you up if it's your birthday, if you're sad.
Okay.
Like there's always
Damn.
this yes, we are actually always down to go on a Sunday to a friend's house and cook out like we did today, like
Yeah.
get some paquetacones, like let's do sancocho. Like we are like we're there for each other. So
Yeah.
I think that sense of community is something that is really hard to get here in the States. Actually, where I live right now, I don't even know my neighbors.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I know that one of them is Latin people as well,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
And even if I know them, I don't feel that they will be there for me.
Yeah.
Because here you're really individual and you have to think as an individual and you just I have never gone out with my coworkers.
Yeah.
At my company, we never have lunches together. I mean, we do it once a month, and this
Okay,
is
okay.
a like human resources initiative. I
Yeah.
work in human resources,
Yeah.
and that's something that we're trying to introduce because it's not just a way of networking, but it's a way to have places where we don't have to be so tied up.
So right.
Right, like just work, and you can be honest, like, hey, yeah, I'm struggling with this, and you
Yeah.
never know who's gonna be there to say, like, hey, I got this information, I
Yeah.
know about this company, and I have friends that I worked in Colombia for a year, and they're still like my best friends.
Keeping in contact. Damn.
Even if we have immigrated to different countries,
Yeah.
we're still there having the communication,
Yeah.
and that's something that I don't expect from my
Just
current.
us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Status Unidos. Okay. Well, so I mean, I guess like when you think about some of those differences, right? When we talk about being so focused on yourself here in the States and not really necessarily pulling together. I mean, obviously, we're not just completely rude to each other, right? But,
Oh no, absolutely
you know,
not.
it's like typically we only pull together if it's like a natural disaster type situation or unless like it's like a military thing. And then we're all like, yeah, you know, America, you know, type shit, right? And so, I think what we may be kind of missing, or at least the way the direction that things seem to be going is like it's such a hyper focus on yourself, and now even important to a certain extent, there could be a potential population of people that are focusing on themselves for mental health. Oh, I'm gonna be super selfish and only focus on me and really avoid conflict and not really work through things and not really think, hey, am I willing to sacrifice this argument or this situation for the greater good of the community, right?
So I think, and you express it really well, but the best way that I understood when I was just here for the first time is that your right to do whatever you want to do is something that you're not willing to give up. Because that's your right to be.
Right.
And that has a lot to do with the history, the 13 colonies, you know what I mean, right? So just the fact that you had the right to decide, the right to have your opinions, the right to talk about it, the freedom of speech.
Right.
It's something that sometimes it gets the wrong idea that if you sacrifice that, you're not going to have it anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because for me, it was wild, like how people, for example, in the pandemic, they would be like, I'm not going to wear my mask. And I don't care if you care or I don't care if you get sick.
Right.
I don't care. Like, and for me, it was wild. It was like, everybody needs to wear the mask. And we are not, right?
Yeah.
Like, just do so. And people were like, no. And even if, I was like, even if that affects you, but they were like, I don't care if it affects me because that's the right of the other person, to get their freedom. But at the same time, you're like, but it's a well-being, like a community, like we cannot let the old people die.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, if you don't see like the whole history, because I don't think Americans are rude or Americans don't care. I think they actually do.
Yeah.
They just have a different perspective and way to approach.
Right. Yeah.
However, that affects at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's something that you can see in the increasing of anxiety. And I mentioned this with you before. Yeah. I never felt as anxious as I felt since I live in the States. Like in Colombia, I never had so much anxiety. If I had a hard time at work, I never went to like a depression episode because I always have community there for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that in Colombia those things don't happen, because they do.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that having that support, emotional support, changed the whole.
Like you can get through it. It just changes your perspective on the problem.
Absolutely. Right? And I don't know if you have seen like when there's like a sport and there's the coach saying like, I trust you, and you can be like, I don't fucking trust myself. Right. But you're like, but if he trusts me,
I got it.
I'm gonna go.
Right.
Like, and even if I don't win, I'm gonna go. Right.
Yeah.
Because you have that mental support and that idea that you're gonna succeed no matter what. And even if you don't succeed, people is gonna be there for you.
Right. Isn't it crazy how that mindset of just knowing that somebody is behind you or knowing somebody is there to kind of catch you totally changes your whole bravado and approach.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
You know
so
what I mean?
When I was in Colombia, I think I'm really close to the Paisa culture, like to the point that I live that. Okay, so I have always had like big ambitions, and that mindset of I can get it.
Yeah.
Like, and not to be just kind of like rude to the not to be that, but I was like, I know I can get it. Like, I know I am willing to put all the sacrifices to go get it.
That's it.
And I used to think like, why in America it seems like even people having the resources, they cannot shift their mentality. Right? And that was my question.
Yeah.
Then being here, I see that sometimes you have the mentality and you have the resources. However, the environment has a lot to do with the way that you are going to even have
utilize those resources.
No, and be motivated to do so.
Right. Well, I think like a lot of safeguards that we may put in place although they may be well intentioned, don't really produce the inspiration that you would hope, right? So if it's like, okay, we have a struggling class of people, we're going to provide a certain level of stability or income, right? And you're going to build off that. And you would think, amongst that community, hey, all of those people are going to pull together and blah, blah, blah. But typically, those are some of the most crime-ridden communities, right, in our country, right? And so a lot of people will, especially in our country, look down, look, we're giving them money and giving them this, and they still doing X, Y, Z, blah, 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 not really kind of peeling back the layer and understanding the historical context behind some of those communities and different things. But I mean, overall, I feel like it's kind of difficult to develop a sense of drive and go get it mentality if you have a certain level of comfort in life. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so it's like, how do you, even now, if you're successful, you're doing well, and you have kids, how do you prepare them for the same mentality that you had when you were coming up that didn't have the same luxuries and all of these? Think about the equipment that we just have right here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You
so it's so funny because I actually have a podcast with one of my best friends, and it was really easy for us to just go to Amazon and just order some high quality mics, and we have our MacBook, so it's not a big deal too. And we have AirPods, so far we have tripod, camera, semi-professional, no high end, but at least that's something that I never even dimension having when I was in Colombia. My income was really low to the point that I had to be really frugal with the money that I had. So it's definitely different. It's a big shift. And the mentality, I think if I happen to have kids, which is not in my plans, I think I should try to look at the context. I think you said something really valuable there. Context makes you understand the real situation. And I know that they are not going to come from a low-income Latin household where they will find happiness in having, a hot cocoa to have in the breakfast, and their grandma making arepas handily. That's something that they're not gonna be even able to relate. They can be able to enjoy, you enjoy being there, but you don't have that. We don't share that background exactly, and that our life standards and situations were so different. And I live that with my husband every day because we're completely different.
He's a gringo.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are things that he's like, but why do you think I'm always I have to have my money organized to the point what if something happens tomorrow, right? We need to have savings for 6 months. We need to plan out for this new upcoming project. We need to always think in the master's degree. Then I want to be a doctor. Always. But he doesn't have the same mentality, and I'm not saying that he's not eager to go for it, because he is, but mentally he's in this spot that I don't really think he ever has to handle from a place where you don't have what to eat.
Right.
Or that you have to hustle to the point I don't have to pay rent. I don't have, he has never had to live to that extent. So his mentality is not going to be like that, and I think I shouldn't expect my kids having it. But I think there's always something that my mom taught me through the years, that it was you always have to try to be the best for yourself. There's not a competition with other people, but she was like, if you can do this in 5 minutes, try to do it in 3. Challenge yourself. And as long as you keep imagining, if you have that power to ambition this, that means that you can get it. And then you have to be analytic about how you're going to do it. You have to create a plan. So those are things that you can share with your kids. But at the end of the day, I'm a psychologist, and I can tell you, and the most powerful tool or mindset that you can have to get change is wanting to do so. if you don't want to change, like we have this joke that how many, I don't know, like engineers you need to change the light bulb.
Right.
And they say, well, the light bulb needs to want it to be to change
Right.
because otherwise it's not going to shine in the same way.
Right.
Right. So what I would do is that I will show them that there's always opportunity to grow and be better.
Yeah.
And I think as a paisa, with that paisa mentality, that
Me too.
we live from the hustle. Like we, I mean, like at some point I also worked like as a vendor on the streets.
Yeah.
And I saw like a lot of people with financial stability and freedom. And that gives you the perspective that this exists.
Right.
Right?
How do I make it happen?
Exactly. And that's the challenge. And once you engage with that, the rewarding system works so good, because even though if you failure, you have to have the mentality like, I'm just one failure away.
Yeah.
To make it happen. And
Yeah.
it can be 10, but I just know that
Number
it's either
11.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can have the power to change it.
Yeah.
So I think, and kids will catch up that on you. Like, they will see, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to be afraid sometimes and this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
But my husband says something that is really true. Like, you just have to keep going.
That's it.
Have to keep going.
That's it. Well, and I think that's that's tough no matter where you are. But I think if you haven't really had to experience certain things in terms of scarcity, like, you definitely have a different outlook on life, right? But two, I think people who have experienced that will never forget that. And so the appreciation level for certain things may be different. And I think a lot of times your approach even to just basic things may be different, right? So it's like,
Absolutely.
if I'm shopping, you may have grown up in El Poblado, right? And I grow up out in the country somewhere. And so when we go shopping at Exito, it's two totally different experiences. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I think, like, even once both people become uber successful, the person who didn't grow up with as much is still going to kind of go shopping and like, all right, well, how much am I getting for this? Or what's that? You know what I'm saying? It may take some time, which
That
to
adjustment
to
period.
a certain extent it may be healthy, but then to a certain extent it may be crippling because you're not willing to totally relax, even though financially you deserve to relax.
Oh,
A
yeah.
part of you is always kind of like, but what if all of this stops and I go back to being poor? You know what I'm saying? So
Well, at least for me, so there are a couple of things. And I want to highlight that you said that the gratitude is one thing that we definitely, when we come from minus zero,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think I didn't have many privileges, and compared to a lot of people, I have to start free way behind, like even without shoes, right? So the gratitude is just different, and that we feel accomplished even with little things.
right.
And we're even grateful for little things, like it doesn't matter. But I think something that we have that I really appreciate is that even when I have had hard times here, or anxiety or depression going on, I've been like listen, like I tell myself, I went from sometimes not having what to eat, not having where to live,
to now.
and I overcome.
Yeah.
So
Man,
I got this.
that's love.
I got this. Like, and I tell that to myself, like, even when the circumstances were, oh my gosh, so fucking bad, I had that fierce to keep going, and this is not gonna be different. I just have to just give myself some time to, like, embrace those emotions, and then be analytical, and then get out of that way. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot to unpack. And I think the mentality can be so different. Like, I know a lot of people that they come with my same background and they think completely different. Or I have people that, for example, we grew up in the same neighborhood, and right now they probably having accomplished certain type of things that society wise would be like, oh, she did this much, like, you know. But at the same time, life is not a competition, and I think the main thing is how to be happy and how to handle and do the best with the things that you can have.
Look, that's real. Well, and I you know, that's a perfect segue because lately I've been kind of transitioning into more of a space where I'm starting to feel a bit more financially free, right? So it's like, okay, it's good to be in, right? I definitely, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But when I reflect back on like a 3-month trip and being able to travel and waking up every day kind of like semi-retired, right? It's like, now that I'm kind of transitioning in that space, permanently retired, I think about, okay, what is real happiness? Does it have to be a condo in Dubai on the 30th floor? Or like, and I've got all these luxury clothes and cars picking me up every day? Or can I be eating a buñuelo con queso
In Medellin.
You know, in Medellin with some like organic fruit.
Organic.
And be
For
happy
real.
as hell, right? So it's definitely pretty interesting, right? But I don't know, at least this is how I feel as a guy. As I transition into that space, especially at this age, I often kind of battle my society responsibility and my house responsibility to be the man and be the provider and be the leader and all of these traditional things, right? So if I'm able to do that, but I'm on the beach in Jurado
You'll be happy.
or in El Poblado at Birdo, shout out to Birdo, I love y'all, you know what I'm saying, great restaurant. Does that in some way kind of like look down on me or whatever? So one of the things that I always ask a guest, you know, as we kind of wrap up is, in your eyes, what is a good man? Like, what are the top 3 qualities of a good man?
Oh,
And I'll kind of give you some time, but as we kind of talk about the differences in culture, right? A man growing up in a society where there's a strong sense of community every day in Medellin, you know what I'm saying? Versus somebody who's growing up like, hey, I gotta go get it. The only way a woman is gonna take me serious is if I make $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like in Medellin, it's like, hey, can you dance?
Can
Like,
you dance?
At least can you do that, right? So, although it's 2 totally different cultures, from a core standpoint, there should still be the same qualities in terms of what consists of a good man, right? So I'll turn it over to you, but
Okay, so before I answer that question, there are a couple things that I think you mentioned that are worth to talk a little bit. The first thing is having the financial freedom will give you different ways to approach life, right? And I am passionate about hearing the stories of famous people that they have achieved famous, money, financial freedom, and all the struggles that mentally happened to them when either this success came too fast, or when they don't know how to approach life, when they're not in this searching for something, going for that financial freedom, going for the house, going for the wife, you know, like we have many things that we think that we need to achieve, because that doesn't mean that we have to, and it's something that you need to build in your own terms. And I think,
but that pressure is a motherfucker though.
Oh yeah,
Society
absolutely.
be like, hey, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Do you have a wife?
Right.
Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Do you have money?
Right.
Show me your bank account. Can you afford this? Can you afford that? Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, I think as a human, you always have to have that conversation with yourself in terms of how does happiness looks for me? How does financial stability looks for me? How do I feel in these areas? And having the mindset that you're changing constantly, right? Like your journey doesn't have to be the same. I mean, I never envision the person that I am right now. Like, I remember as a kid thinking, like, I'm gonna live at, like, I'm gonna go, this was my dream. Like, I'm gonna, like, be in a cruise.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go places.
Okay.
Because I never traveled when I was a kid, and I was
Right.
like, but I'm gonna see what's going on out there.
Right. In the
But I
world.
had that mentality, like I need to, like I know I'm gonna go, and I will fantasize about it.
Yeah.
And people call it manifestation,
Yeah.
right? Like there's many
It's
ways
real.
to call it.
Yeah.
And most of the things that I never even thought were possible, I'm doing them.
Yeah.
And I was telling one of my friends these days, like damn it, like 5 years ago, I planned the life that I have right now, and I never thought that was gonna happen. That I was just like dreaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happened that today's my reality. A lot of work into, not just like providing.
You just wake up one day. And
Exactly.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a huge help.
Yeah.
At least mentally, that's a
Yeah.
good reward. So now going back to the question, that is really important.
Okay. What you got for me? Paisa?
I mean, so I have this Latin mentality. Even though I'm really Latin, I don't share this idea that the man has to be the provider.
Okay.
I grew
Wow,
up
talk to
in
me.
a
That's
in a single household mom.
Okay.
So my mom, this is since I was a kid. I used
Okay.
to see that men would travel to make the money, and I didn't have a lot of women to like feel like I want to be like them. But my mom, she was a go-getter. Like she was working.
Okay.
She was always making money. She was making the best to be a good mom at the same time.
Yeah.
Her situations in life weren't the easiest ones, and she just made the best that she could.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, I want to be like that. You know,
Yeah.
like I want to have my business. I want to work. I want to travel.
Yeah.
I want to be smart. Like I would see my mom like talking to men always and never feeling less than them or
Yeah,
less
yeah.
educated.
Yeah.
And she always made me feel secure to the point that no matter what happened, even if we're in a dangerous place, like I got it.
Yeah.
And I think just growing with that gave me that mentality that as a woman, I want to be as strong as man,
Okay. All right.
right? But then once I started growing up, I was like, I don't need a man that has to be the provider because I proved myself really being young that I could make the money.
Okay.
And,
And
that
you
I
be the
could,
provider.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All
And
right.
I could provide to my family.
Okay.
So that gives you a different mindset because you're not looking for somebody to provide or give you the mental free worry about money, life, and everything.
Okay.
But for me, it was important to have an equal person that had the desire to make life work in
Okay.
their own terms, like
Okay.
have projects that have ambition, like for me, something that is really important. I don't like the good man because that can be completely different for everybody else.
Yeah.
But for me, you have to be eager to follow your dreams.
Okay. All right. So
The-
ambitious. Okay.
I don't care what they are.
Yeah.
I hope they're good to society.
Yeah.
But I like to think that somebody that we are going to be an equal provider. Like
Okay.
it happens that you don't have a job, you don't have the money. Hey, I'm here.
Right. Right.
But it has to be somebody that that also wants to produce and have a good life together.
And so y'all are gonna bring both equal parts to the table.
So that's an interesting and I remember I talked with this American friend that I have, and I was like, man, I just feel that I'm really completed. Like I'm not like a single orange,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I feel that it has to be somebody that I really admire.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
not because of the money, not because of the status.
Right.
Somebody that I can see like, oh yeah, like I would love to join you to my life
Yeah.
and me to yours, right?
Yeah.
So, but she told me something that is really, it's facts. Like a car doesn't need two engines to start.
Yeah.
And sometimes one of us is going to be the engine and the other person is just going to be the accessory and vice versa. We
Yeah.
have different talents and that's also okay. That's a way
Yeah.
to provide to
Yeah.
the family, right?
Yeah.
So definitely having somebody that look at me as an equal.
Okay. So ambitious, looks at you as an equal. Okay.
And I think for me it's important to have compatibility and values. Like I want to make sure that we align in terms of the life that we want to live, respect, like that we are good to each other.
Okay.
Of course, if the person dance, that's amazing. If
All
not, my husband is learning, so as long
So
as you
good
want to
values.
learn.
Okay, good values. All right, so that's 3. Okay, so I think one thing, and this may be a good episode because, kind of the conversation you were having with your American friend, right, about provisions of men or men providing, just in general, right? So I can definitely understand your perspective of that thought process just because you had a strong mom who was doing it all, right? So it's like, oh, hey,
You can
this
do
is
that.
it. Right, this is it. And so I often wonder how much of it is it a true desire to want to do everything, or would you just like to have the option to do everything? And so when we talk about not needing 2 engines for a car, or if you have a Tesla, you don't need no engine, and it just drives itself, right?
You need energy though, so
Well, right. That's true.
at some point you have to need something,
Right? And so, but is it an actual desire to want to be equal on everything? So, hey, we're gonna do everything completely equal, or is there a desire for the guy to be more of the engine and the woman to be more of the support and actual car? Like,
I think society, and just for the way that we have developed, there's a lot of things to see here. But the first one is that we have this idea or this narrative that the men were the ones that they were, like hunting. Even though now there's archaeologists realizing that women were also hunting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They were out getting the food and everything.
Yeah.
So there's, for me at least, there's no a need to be equal. But I like to think that in the same way that men think like I have to get my ass and my act together, and I need to provide to myself, I am glad that I live in a society where I can pay my bills, and I don't need to be with a man because he needs to pay my bills. Because if I'm not with that man, I cannot pay my bills. Or if I'm not with that man, I'm not going to get a loan. Or I'm not going to be able to drive a car or have education. So that's a completely different mindset. And at least for me, the importance here is now who's going to pay the bills, or we need to pay 50-50 because I'm totally against that. So
that's why I say option versus, like, obviously you don't want to be forced to be in a situation where, like, 100 years ago in America, 200 years ago, a woman literally could not get a bank account or vote or whatever, right?
No, that would be a lot.
It's a difference between you wanting equality in terms of the option to do things. Like, you want the option to vote or to drive or to have a bank account, whatever, or to get a job and support yourself on your own, right?
Yeah.
You want that option. But do you desire to be in a relationship in which you have to do all of those things by yourself as if you were absolutely by yourself? You see what I'm saying?
I think even if I was the breadwinner, that's the term, I would be completely okay if
We're
I
paying
had
most of the bills.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's good. So we have I think that's gonna be perfect.
I don't have, and that's something that I have talked to my husband many times. Of course, if I am the breadwinner, unless I'm incredibly, successful, we can have the life that we want to have. So for now, we're still working. You're still working, unfortunately. But, I mean, if I was a writer or, like I have this X, Y, and Z amount of money in my bank account, babe, you relax. I don't care.
Okay, so that is a great segue. So I think, because we're wrapping up on time here, but I think I'd like to bring maybe our last guest back, and we all 3 of us sit down, just because, we've had some conversations just kind of talking about expectations when it comes to surviving and maintaining and support, and what does support look like for each other. But or just in general, right? So that'll be interesting to kind of sit down and talk about. But yeah, so all right. So again, fellas, I always say this, and we always kind of have like a little takeaway because this is Rural University, right? So ambition, being seen as an equal, and what was the last one? Oh, fuck.
Compatibility in values.
Oh yeah, values. Yeah. So having a strong sense of values, right? So,
Yeah, I think that I need to at least have the same, not the same values, but the way to get agreements and things that we feel that we can work around or not. You know,
Right.
like I wouldn't be able to marry somebody that watched child porno. Like, and I know this is a extreme example, but those are values.
Yeah. For
In
sure.
a sense. So that's
sure.
what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, all right. So we'll definitely wrap up, fellas. If you are not evaluating yourselves in those 3 areas, I would definitely challenge you to do that, right?
Yeah.
And see how you measuring up, whether you in El Centro, Medellin, or downtown Raleigh. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely appreciate you coming on.
Yes,
It's
thank
been a
you.
good conversation with you. Y'all see I got Rural University on here. You know what I mean? You see the apparel. But so as we wrap up, kind of tell the people where they can maybe find you on social media if you want to share that, and you know.
So I'm kind of private.
Okay, all right. Hey,
I think, but I'm really happy to be here. I'm
For sure.
beyond happy. I just see that at least the social media that I have for now is just for family and friends.
No, for sure.
And not because I don't want to have them
Yeah.
joining in my life,
Yeah.
but at least I want to be free in my social media as I can be with my friends and family. It's like privacy is something that you need to have.
Oh, for sure. Boundaries.
But so yeah, absolutely.
Boundaries. Oh, that could be another episode. Boundaries.
That would be amazing.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So we got so much to talk about.
But thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you really like it.
Yep.
Show up in the comments and let us know what you want to talk about the next episode.
Yeah.
Seems like boundaries is going to be a great episode and
Yes.
topic.
Yes.
So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm all for women paying for everything. So if y'all want to pay for everything, go ahead and pay that shit. Be my sugar mama.
Oh, Lord.
My azucar madre. You know what I'm saying? So, nah, I'm totally playing. Yeah, I'm totally against that. But again, I appreciate y'all. This is Rural University, man. Follow me. I'll drop my social media in the comments and everything below. And yeah.
It was really good.